Welcome to Relationship Equity, a podcast that explores how successful people cultivate meaningful connections with others in their personal and professional lives. Learn from the stories, insights, and advice of leaders, innovators, and influencers who have built strong bonds with their teams, their customers, their communities, and their families. Here's Richard Walker.
Welcome back to our conversation with my good friend, Jeff Tollefson. We've been exploring his leadership journey in tech and venture capital, highlighting the positive impact within the technology community of the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Now, Jeff, let's delve into your current role as the president and CEO of the Minnesota Technology Association. How long have you been in that position?
Yeah, so it's just been over 4.5 years now.
It's been that long already?
Yeah, it's crazy to think. But, it's been a really good place after, more than 11 years with the Genesis Works organization, which I just dearly love and continue to support. This was an opportunity to address workforce challenges and inequities on a broader scale. And we're really looking at the workforce needs of our business community over the next 10 years. And where's that talent going to come from? It needs to increasingly come from our communities of color, our immigrant populations, all the groups that Genesis Works had been working with. This now feels like I can put it on a larger stage, shine a spotlight on programs that are impactful, like York's Barriers to Entry program, where you have been reskilling and upskilling adults into technology roles, in a very impactful way, where they're not having to pay tuition to go to a boot camp. You're giving them a job day one, training them for the job, employing them, and getting great conversion rates. These are programs that more companies need to know about. And I feel fortunate that I'm in a position now at MnTech where we can shine a light on those success stories, share best practices, and really work together to build the digitally skilled, employment-ready workforce that our entire business community needs for continued success. So, long rambling answer, but it's great to be in a position to impact public policy, workforce, and community building in a different way.
You said something, everything you say is meaningful, but one of I have to be very frank, when it was the Barriers to Entry, now our Emerging Talent Program, was first socialized with me. The second half of it, the first half of it was really all about bringing in people, usually mothers that had gaps in their resumes because they raised families and whatever, you couldn't get back in. So that was the first part of it, and that continued to do really well. But when somebody at York said to me, we should go after people that haven't gone through the traditional education system. You don't have the 4-year computer science degree. We can create a unique pool of people that we can make into software engineers. I subconsciously said the same thing that most people think. That's not possible. Well, God, was I wrong, Jeffrey? Was I wrong? I mean, the proof's in the pudding. And, you mentioned my book. Thank you for doing that. I talk about the socio-economic pyramid and the inequities we have in the world. It's just a fact. I mean, you can't dispute that. Some people have got better opportunities than others just based on the family they were born into. It just is what it is. Does that mean that people at the bottom of the pyramid don't have the same desires, don't have the same drive and the same capabilities? Well, we know it doesn't. So, yes, I'm very proud of the fact that the York has embraced that, and it's exploded. That program's exploded, and there's many ways that we can provide opportunities to the talent that we bring in. And so thank you for your support with that. So the MnTech Association that you moved to, you got the Genesis Works program more than off the ground, and that thing's cooking along beautifully now. When you joined the MnTech Association, what were the biggest challenges that you saw? Are they same now? And 4 years later, is it basically the talent pool? Is that the biggest initiative that's on your mind right now with how we're going to tackle this problem over the next 5-10 years? Is that where it is?
Yeah, it's one of the problems, Richard. And I was on a call earlier this morning, as we're kicking off this coming year's legislative session. There's some policy work we're doing around computer science education and STEM education in Minnesota. we have underinvested in and underprioritized STEM education in our state for far too long, and it's beginning to show. One example is that Minnesota, for 4 years in a row, we're ranked 50th out of 50 states in the percentage of high schools that even offer a coding class.
Say that again. 50th?
Yeah, we are 50th. Yeah, at only 28% of our high schools even offer a class, compared to national averages that are now approaching 60%. So we're behind Louisiana, Mississippi, all the states that sometimes we point our noses at up and saying they're behind in education, and here we are. So we have started an initiative called Last to First. Over the next 5 years, we want to go from last in the country to having 100% of our schools at least offering the course, which would tie us for first place with other states that might be at 100%. So these are examples of things that we want to remedy, and we feel that MnTech is in a position as kind of a trusted voice and unifying convener of our tech community to really help make a difference. But some of the other challenges that we faced 4 years ago as an association is we were trying to be all things to all people.
Right.
We were trying to serve the early stage companies. We really tried to focus a little more on information technology as opposed to technology in general. We arguably could be called the Information Technology Association of the Twin Cities, because Greater Minnesota is still aspirational. But we are, I think that we have done a good job now of serving that community and creating opportunities for peer learning, for elevating, what's going on in cloud computing and AI, in, how different ways of work, of agile. We can now look at the broader technology field around semiconductors, around biomedical engineering, material science, other technology roles that are going to be important in our state beyond just IT. So those are some of the hills yet to climb, Richard, but we had to focus a little more first to become more relevant and then be able to kind of build back from there.
So going back to Genesis Works, because it's a similar concept now, it wasn't just about going out to companies and meeting with the CIOs to have them say yes to give Genesis Works an opportunity. It was also going into the schools, and it was convincing them that this thing is real and that we're creating opportunities here for people in the underserved communities to change the course of their life. Again, not an easy sell, because if you don't, you mentioned me, I had no idea what was available. I had no idea out of my little community what the rest of the world was like. And people that are in that demographic don't see the world the same way as people do at the top of the pyramid. Now, and as we think about that concept now, it starts with the youngsters, as you mentioned, and IT, information technology. You mentioned the emphasis being on information. Do you feel as though there needs to be kind of a rebranding for the youngsters of the world of what technology means to organizations? And before you answer, I've been in technology for 30-odd years now, and I've seen a massive shift in that time frame. You're back to the old movie Big. Remember Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Big. And he's in the basement, right? And he's a computer operator, data entry. And then he runs into the CEO and he asks, so what do you do? I'm in computers. And he laughs as if, that's like the lowest rung on the ladder. And now that was an old movie. But technology today, if it's not at the very forefront of your business, you're losing.
Yeah, it is a difficult thing in the schools. And a lot we have to remind students is this is a computer.
100%.
Your smartphone technology is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And yes, we want students to be able to learn to be good consumers of technology and users of technology. But what we've been missing out in the schools is how do we create our next generation of creators of technology? And that is where learning to code at an early age, whether it's through robotics programs, can be really helpful in that regard. Does everybody need to become a software developer? No. Is it important to understand what that problem solving looks like when you're trying to code? Yes, it's helpful. So we're trying to change things. Also, the problem we had with schools was, it was a time when standardized testing was so important because your test scores as a school in math and reading were being published in the Star Tribune, and all principals didn't want students leaving the classroom for any reason. And we were asking for them to be let go midway through the day to go to work and take a job, and helping them understand the importance of experiential learning and moving learning beyond the classroom, making it more relevant, particularly for students that have kind of checked out of traditional education. They want to see what can my career look like? And we felt that a good age was in that time frame between, train them between their summer of the junior year and senior year, give them their afternoon off their senior year to really do something that's more vocational and career focused. And it really does make a difference. And we've seen it play out. 99% of the students going through Genesis Works in the Twin Cities are coming from communities of color or first generation college. And when we see the number that are going on to enroll in higher education or taking a job in technology right away, it's close to 90%. So we're beating the odds. We're taking students that maybe didn't realize that professional career was even attainable using kind of your own background, helping them live it, breathe it, feel supported by caring adults in the workplace. And they develop a sense of confidence in themselves of what their life can be. And there's no looking back to a McDonald's job ever again.
Right. You mentioned not everybody needs to be and should be a software engineer. I think one of the aspects of the technology world in general is the ignorance, I use that word, of what it really is, because it's so broad. On one end of the spectrum, there's people with extremely technical brains that don't have the best communication skills, and there's a need for that skill set. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got people like me who's in technology, and as I mentioned in my book, I'm about as technical as a pint of Guinness, but I understand business problems, and I understand people, and I understand what motivates them, and I understand how to put the right teams together to create a solution for a business problem that exists. So how do we educate the youth of today that technology is a lot more than just wearing a propeller hat? I mean, that movie, what was that movie? It's a funny one.
There is a huge branding issue, and you mentioned about just new business. But as we know, the key to business success is the ability to make an informed decision. And the way you can make an informed decision is have access to information and data that will allow you to do that. And so technology becomes that enabler of getting the right information to the right people, the right time.
It's almost like you read my book.
I did read the book. Exactly right. But that information is so important to get there, and its technology is the enabler. But that technology needs to be accessed. It needs to be secured. It needs to be communicated. It needs to be able to be presented. There's so many ways that technology touches information and how you get it to the right place at the right time in the right way all of those things. How do we market that better, Richard? I don't know, but there's something we need to do.
I don't know either, and I find it very frustrating. I remember you think about how the evolution of technology, how it's changed in our lifetime, Jeff. I mean, the big mainframes, they still exist, a lot of the big companies, and keep bolting the new stuff onto it, and then the Meet server, and then the cloud, and all that stuff came along. But now, the big buzz letters, the big buzzword, artificial intelligence, machine learning. That's something that everybody's talking about. Most companies are embracing in some way, shape, or form. How do you see artificial intelligence changing the business world, the technology world, and do you think it will attract more people into the technology of business?
I do think it will, because it's just going to be embedded in pretty much everything that we do. And it was just over a year ago where ChatGPT came upon our, became part of our vernacular. And in generative AI with large language models. There's just so many great applications people are leveraging this for. But when you see what it's doing in the world of healthcare, in agriculture, there's just so much going on where AI and machine learning is having a huge impact. And so there's going to be a huge need for those that are well versed in how artificial intelligence and all of the algorithms that come with it are leveraged. Our mutual friend Julie Durham from Optum, she said at one of our conferences not long ago, there's going to be two kinds of engineers in the future, ones that use AI and those that are unemployed. And there's a lot of truth to that. It's either you embrace it because it's going to be part of our world in so many ways going forward. It's a scary thought. When you look at the intersection of quantum computing and AI and how that can break down security algorithms at just high speed. And if that gets in the wrong hands and bad actors, yes, there's a dark side to some of this too, which means we have to be really responsible in terms of how AI is rolled out, utilized. Hopefully it doesn't become overly legislated, and that is a concern of ours in this upcoming Minnesota legislature. Is there's already conversations of lawmakers around how do we regulate AI, and the unintended consequences of trying to regulate algorithms can have a huge impact on our business community, and that's something we're trying to protect against.
Yeah, this might be a dangerous analogy to use, but it's kind of the nuclear power of technology. I mean, nuclear is being used all over the world right now, but then we had Chernobyl. So we need to avoid an AI version of Chernobyl. However, we do that because, AI is obviously extremely important in our lives in general right now. I want to go back to something, back to the relationship conversation. So you developed countless relationships over the years, meaningful, intentional relationships. And for those that don't have those natural abilities that you do, how would you encourage people? Well, you answer the question, yes, people can. You can intentionally do that. But first of all, how important is that really? Am I overstating the importance of it? How important is it really? And how can people hone that skill?
To me, relationship building and maintaining relationships is the core to success in anything that we do, whether it's business success in our family lives, friendships, nurturing and maintaining relationships takes work. It takes work, and it takes being intentional sometimes. And I know I fail on that quite often. I look at some friendships that I wish that I had more time for. Similarly with business relationships, I'm getting LinkedIn requests all the time from people, and you've got to be really judicious of what your network looks like. But I'm a firm believer if you build the right network of close people that also have networks that you can tap into, using you as an example, Richard, I know that if there's any CIO that I need to get in touch with, I could call on you and you could help make an introduction. So I'm mindful of who are those important relationships that I need to maintain, and because I know that they can be of value to me. So it's less about quantity and it's more about the quality of relationships that get built. We don't have to have all those relationships ourselves. If you are maybe not a relationship builder at heart, make sure on your teams that you surround yourself with people that can do that for the good of your team. Because it's not everybody's cup of tea that they want to take. But I do feel it's very important.
Now, I've met with many, many people over the years that found themselves out of a job or got laid off or whatever, very senior level, that have come to me. And a lot of people have said, I feel funny about reaching out to old friends, people that I've worked with, because I've not been in touch with them for years. And now I need their help. And I feel weird about doing that. What would you say to those people, Jeff?
You've got to reach out. If people care about you, they're going to want to help you. And it's And why deny them an opportunity to serve and to help you? That may just be what they've been looking for, is a way to be able to repay you for something in the past. Who knows what? But if you don't ask, you don't get. And
give yourself permission to do so.
Give yourself permission. Yep.
You just sometimes have to get out of your own way. You said something so important that people need to realize. The people that you have real relationships with, that you've worked with in the past and you've got equity with them, they want to help you. So just do it. Reach out, because most people have found themselves in that situation themselves. And so they get it. So don't be afraid to reconnect with people when you are in need. But on top of that, well, let me ask you this question. You know, to your point, building the right, meaningful, close network is very, very important. And, you know, the relationship equity circle that I talk about, you're always going to have those people in your inner circle that you can rely on forever, and vice versa as well. But there are those people on the periphery that you've spent a lot of time with, you're good friends with, but they're not necessarily on the inner circle. How do you stay in touch with? How do you, and maybe there's no answer to it, Jeff, but how, because your network isn't a static thing, right? People come in, people go out. How do you balance that with who you keep in your inner circle? Do you have a magic wand with how to do that? Because I haven't found it.
I haven't found it either, Richard. There is no easy way for those. Yes, sometimes it's LinkedIn, you know, just from posts to be able to, you know, if you see somebody on your outer periphery, just commenting on something that they're posting, just a way to keep relevant in terms of that relationship. But it's hard because we're all very busy, and relationships evolve. You know, even with CIOs that move on to other companies or move out of our region, you know, sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind, which I feel bad about. But I haven't figured out how to do that well, Richard. And that's why it always comes back to more for me that inner circle, and knowing that there will be times that outer circle is going to be important to have access to. But to the extent I could leverage my inner circle to get there, you know, I'll call on that.
Right. No, I think that's a great way to end our wonderful conversation. Jeffrey Tollefson, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. Wonderful words of wisdom to share with all of our listeners. And I have no doubts there's a lot more to come in your world, my friend.
Well, I just so appreciated our friendship, Richard, first and foremost. The professional relationship to me is secondary, but it's been as impactful. The things that you stepped up to do on behalf of Genesis Works, and now what you're doing in our broader community, it's commendable. I so appreciated how you put your life lessons into the book. I picked it up again this morning. And for those that haven't read Relationship Equity, really urge you to do so. Very simple tips and tricks of how you build your network, how you sustain relationships, and how you find value in life and impact in the work that you do. And thank you, Richard, for taking the time to put that into a book.
You're very welcome. His name's Jeff Tollefson. He's the president and CEO of the Minnesota Technology Association. And that'll do it for this episode of Relationship Equity. Please make sure to leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss out any future episodes. Cheers, and I'll see you next time.
This has been Relationship Equity. If you want to take your career, your business, or your personal relationships to the next level, reach out to Richard at yorksolutions.net. You can also get Richard's book, Relationship Equity, your cornerstone investment to great gains in business and life, on Amazon now. Relationship Equity with Richard Walker is a production of Forbes Books.